The living word is full of paradoxes. The rich are poor. The poor are rich. The children lead. The powerful are powerless. The powerless are mighty. The King of the ages comes as a helpless baby. The throne is a manger. The palace is a barn. The victory cry is a whimper of a baby. The creator of the universe trusts his care to an innocent virgin girl. And just maybe it takes a paradox to explain the unexplainably profound. In the beginning, God and people were best friends. They were glad to see each other whenever they got together, and when they went for walks in the beautiful garden God had made, they laughed and told each other secrets. They shared everything, and no one was embarrassed or shy. One day, a stranger showed up in the garden, a jealous and selfish creature, and he disguised himself as a beautiful, colorful serpent. He coaxed the two people to break their promises to God and to ruin the beautiful friendship between people and God. Afterward, whenever God came to enjoy his friends, the people were ashamed and acted guilty and afraid. It was as if God and his friends had become strangers and had no one to introduce them to each other again. God knew everything had changed between them and could never be fixed unless a miracle happened. From then on, God tried to get messages to his friends about how sad he was to lose them and how very much he loved them. He wrote, "I miss you," on the sunset. That had been the time they took walks. He pulled at people with gentle breezes that felt like the way the wind blew when they ran together down the garden path. He hoped the people would remember then how close they had been to him. Over the years, more and more people were born. The mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers passed on stories to the children about how God had been best friends with the first man and woman long ago, how they talked and sang and laughed together. The stories seemed almost too good to be true. God was so great, so powerful, and so far away. But some of the people who told stories were special listeners. They said they could hear God trying to talk to people. They said he wanted his friends back, and one day he would find a way to fix the friendship the lying snake had destroyed. The people guessed at how God might do this. Some thought that if they could be good enough, God might be friends with them again. They tried so hard to be perfect and to keep all the rules they thought would make God happy. But being perfect was way too hard. People always went to bed at night disappointed in themselves and sad, because they knew this was no way to get to know God again. The listeners said God would send someone to introduce people to him again, so that God's people could get together with him in a place called God's kingdom. People talked about what kind of introducer God might send. The special listeners said God told them the introducer would be a descendant, a child or grandchild or great-grandchild of a king. That would make him a king too. What kind of king would God send? Certainly, they thought he'd be a more awesome king than Saul or Solomon or even good King David. He'd be more powerful than any leader of an army. He'd be more rich and fine than the family who lived in the best house in town. For centuries, people waited and wondered. They came up with all kinds of ideas. Some got tired of waiting and decided the whole story about God was just something someone made up. But it wasn't. One night, in a tiny, tiny town, God kept his promise. And he didn't send someone to introduce people to God. He came himself. And he didn't come as a king on a white horse or a rich man driving a big car. He didn't come as a president or a governor. He didn't even come as a grown-up. No, God had planned all along to come in a way we could understand. He chose to come as a baby because no one would be afraid of a baby. He knew children might be shy if he came as a grown-up, but no one can be shy of a baby. Now children could grow up, not in his shadow, but beside him. Like the first people in the garden, children and God would know each other and not be afraid. So it was true. God came himself. He was just an ordinary baby born in a simple barn to a loving mother named Mary and a strong man named Joseph who made things out of wood. Instead of important-looking doctors in white coats to help this baby be born, there was just Joseph. And instead of a story in a newspaper, a real star in the sky stopped over the barn and twinkled in the clear, dark night. Who would have ever guessed it? God thought of the best way to have his friends back. He would be an ordinary baby. And that's the way he planned it. Maybe so that we would come to him and not be afraid.
He was just an ordinary baby. And that's the way he planned it. Maybe anything less than common would have kept him apart from the children that he came to rescue, limited to some elite few. When he was the only child who asked to be born, and he came to us with eyes wide open, knowing how we're hurt and broken, choosing to partake of all our joy and pain. He was just an ordinary baby. That's the way he planned it. Maybe so that we would come to him and not be afraid.
He was ordinary with exception of miraculous conception. Both his birth and death were planned from the start, but between his entrance and his exit was a life that has affected everyone who's walked the earth to this very day. And with no airs of condescension, he became God's pure extension, giving you and me the chance to be remade. He was just an ordinary baby. That's the way he planned it. Maybe so that we would come to him and not be afraid.
So that we would come to him and not be afraid. was just